know what we're calling it for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
Flip it again.
Ha! Head!
Yes. Welcome into episode 35 of the Coin Flip podcast. Martin, I'm looking around the podcast room in the studio, the Jennings building on Dixie State campus, and I can't seem to find you anywhere. Martin, where are you at?
I'm still in Chicago. This is my last week in Chicago, and I've been on vacation for a while. Honestly, my vacations felt like I've been on vacation for like 3 months. But just about done here in Chicago, hanging out with all my family. So I'll be back into town next week. So you'll see me back in the studio next week. Jacob, man, I don't know. We were talking about it during the week, but I feel like we got to debut something, man. We got an Instagram page, don't we?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is in the works. We're going to start posting stuff over there. We haven't decided what we're going to do with it exactly yet, but I think we're going to go in the direction of posting like 1 minute video clips from the podcast, probably a different couple 1 minute video clips, probably one from each segment, something like that, just to try to branch out and get outside of YouTube, get outside of Podbeam. I know we're on those two, but we're definitely going to be doing a lot more with the podcast as the summer comes along.
All right, man, I like the sound of that. All right, let's jump into this. What are we going to be talking about today?
All right, we got the rundown here. We'll start off with the NBA today. Bucks, Heat, Nuggets, Blazers, and 76ers versus Wizards are the series we're going to be talking about today. We talked about a couple other series on last episode, episode 34. Now we're going to be talking about these series and what's going on and our predictions and everything like that. And then head over to the NFL. Will the Chiefs go 20-0? That's what we're talking about, as well as the Cowboys. How will they look like with a healthy DAK? Then, Martin, you'll take it away with NASCAR and other sports. And then, what do you have with the rant for us today?
I like to keep it racing when I come talk about the rant. I'm going to talk about the Memorial Day race weekend. It's one of the special days in racing. It's one of my favorite weekends of all time on the calendar of the entire year. I'll talk about that coming up.
All right. With that said, it's time to hit that intro button.
Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer! It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win it! They win it!
3 and 2. LeBron to win the game. He does! He does!
The ball comes in. Kobe's got it. Above the three-point line, taking a little bit of time. One dribble pull-up. For the win, he's got it! The Lakers win!
McKee gets it in the middle for the win.
With two, Wade puts it up for the win. Yeah, baby!
Oh my, we are witnessing one of the great players to ever play in this league. And man, I hope it lasts for another 7, 8, 9 years, baby.
7, 8, 9. Martin, we say it every time. We want these guys to play forever, don't we?
Yeah, we do want them to play forever, man. It's just, you watch guys growing up all the time when you're a kid, and you hope when you get older you'll appreciate them when you're older, and then you realize they retire, and then the new guns come through, and then you have someone to root for, and then you live through that your entire year. So we hope these guys play for a long time. But let's get into this, Jacob. What's our first topic?
All right, our first topic today, the playoffs, of course, going on in the NBA. Lots of great series, lots of great games in these series, and something I'm sure a lot of us didn't expect was the Bucks versus Heat series and how this turned out. As we all know by now, it's the 1st of June. We're almost halfway through 2021. But the Bucks and the Heat series is over. 4-0 sweep. Completely different series than it was last year, Martin. I think it went 5 games back in 2020 in the bubble, and this year only 4, just the opposite, so a complete turnaround. Martin, what do you think the difference was in this series this year?
I think the difference this year was that the Bucks didn't make the same mistakes they made in the bubble about 9 months ago. We saw the Bucks make way too many mental mistakes. We saw from Giannis continuous fouling late, not making the consistent shots they had to make late in the game last year in that series against the Miami Heat. And really, the Miami Heat just didn't look ready for the playoffs this year. They came in kind of banged up. Victor Oladipo didn't look right. Gordon Dragic didn't look right. Bam Adebayo really didn't look right. And, Duncan Robinson can only do so much. Jimmy Butler can only do so much. Tyler Hero can only do so much. So the Heat weren't really ready for this playoff series against the Bucks. The Bucks had it in their mindset that they had to come in. They had to, set a tone real quick. I mean, besides game 1, which came down to a buzzer beater by Chris Middleton, that was really the only game that was close in this series. And after that, the Milwaukee Bucks took over and, put a defensive and offensive machinery just outright just out shooting the Miami Heat all over the place. Jimmy Butler just could not get enough out of the tank this year to get the Miami Heat as far as he could as he did last year. I mean, the only reason why the NBA Finals series went to 6 games was because of Jimmy Butler heroics in that final series against the Lakers. So the Heat didn't have enough this year, and the Bucks, they have a mindset of they want revenge. They know they should be the better team in the Eastern Conference. Are they really the better team in the Eastern Conference? That's only time will tell when we see them go up against the 76ers in the next round, or when we see them go up against the Nets in the conference finals to go to the NBA Finals.
All right, so you talked about Jimmy Butler. I think he's definitely the story here. I mean, there's no way Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, all these guys were expecting to get bounced like that in a sweep. I mean, maybe they might have thought in the back of their heads, yeah, there's a chance we might lose this series. We're kind of banged up all year. We're not quite the same since we were from the bubble. We still haven't recovered yet. The chemistry's not there, but they were starting to look like the Heat of last year late into the season. And there's no way they were thinking that they were going to go out like that, but they did. And so I think Jimmy Butler and the Heat organization need to look around and think, what is the right move here? And from how the finals went to now, they just didn't play hungry. Last year, they played with some tenacity. You could see it just on their face. Look at Tyler Hero's expressions. Jimmy Butler didn't look like he was sweating as hard as he was last year. There was a clear difference to me. The Heat could definitely rebuild now, but with Jimmy older, the Heat really got to look around. But I'm proud of the Bucks because it was about time they pulled through like this. They shot well, like they proved they can in the regular season. The real difference, the X factor, Drew Holiday. He pulled through. I knew the Bucks needed a point guard. Giannis can't be the only one handling the ball in crunch time. That's where he comes in. That's where Middleton, his ability to create a shot and not just play off ball, has really improved in the last couple of years, and that's why the Bucks won the series.
I 100% agree. Before we move on to the next series, I 100% agree with you. I don't know what the Miami Heat are going to do. I don't know how much more veteranship they need to add to that team, or if they need to,
timelines don't fit.
They're just not collaborating together. It's a very young and very old team. There isn't that middle part of the team that really can bring everybody together and coexist with each other. To the Bucks' point about Drew Holiday, we talked about this in the offseason, how much they gave up to get Drew Holiday from the Pelicans for that. And now we're looking back on it saying, you know what, that was the right move, but that move only pays off if the Bucks make it to the NBA Finals and put up a fight in the NBA Finals or win the entire NBA playoffs and win the championship.
I think what the move did is it let Giannis know that he could stay there, and I think that's worth even more than a championship to them. But moving on to the next series, the Nuggets and the Blazers. Martin, this one has, I think, surprisingly been so far You could argue the closest series out of any playoffs. It is now 2-2. They play again tonight at 7 our time when we're recording this, that is. What are you expecting to see the rest of this series, and what has caught your eye to start this series?
The first thing to me is if only the Nuggets had Jamal Murray, I think this series is probably 3-1, or this series is over by now. Because the Nuggets do not have Jamal Murray, they don't have that finisher. Jokic is a great player. I'm trying to think of his name. He's the young kid on the team.
MPJ, Michael Porter.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. He's a great player. Bobo, is a great player. And Aaron Gordon playing in his first – it's not his first, but his true first NBA playoff series where he's not going to get bounced out in 4 games. Like, they have the team, but they're missing Jamal Murray to really finish it off, to really take – and battle Damian Lillard every single night. And give credit to Damian Lillard. Give credit to Carmelo Anthony. These two are putting up numbers. These two are trying to get the Trailblazers an upset series right here. The Nuggets are the better team. They are the superior team. They have better talent. But the Blazers do not want to go away. And the Blazers, whether it was game 1 upset, it was the game 3 upset, both wins for the Blazers, and it was 2 and 4 for the wins for the Nuggets in this series. Jokic still looks like the MVP to me. Jokic is still playing his heart out. He's not letting these guys go away with the Nuggets. Porter Jr. is showing up and playing some good minutes, but the Blazers are just that annoying little brother that just will not go away, and they're giving the Nuggets a run for money. I still think the Nuggets are going to win this series, but I think this could be 6 or 7 games. And I think, honestly, Jacob, besides the conference finals games, I think this is going to be the most fun series we're going to see in the first and in the first 2 rounds before we get to the conference finals.
I believe I forget what I picked in this series. I don't think we actually made official predictions, but I think going into this series, I had Nuggets in 7 in my mind, and now I'm going to flip it the other way. I think the Blazers have the momentum here in this series. They shot the ball really well the other night, and I just think without Jamal Murray, just like you pointed out, there's a lot of uphill battles for this team to overcome, and sure, they're getting MPJ to step up, but in that last game, the rest of the team did not show out, and if Jokic does not go for 30, 10, and 10, or close to that, I mean, they really don't stand a chance. They're reliant on him to have an MVP-level game every single game, and that's just not going to take you very far into the series. Something that is kind of bothering me about Jokic is that a lot of people are looking at Steph Curry, and they're kind of overlooking Jokic, in my opinion. They're saying, oh, Embiid would have won it if he wasn't hurt, or Curry should win it even though he's an 8 seed. Jokic's numbers are insanity. He's almost 50, 40, 90, almost triple-double with 30 points. I mean, his numbers are off the charts. It's a shame that Jamal Murray is not healthy, because who knows what they could have done. Maybe they would be the team to make the NBA Finals. But I think after this is all said and done, if the Blazers lose this series, I think, and even if they do win, it'd be a good idea for them to rebuild. I think if they go in a different direction, that at least gives them the future. Because let's all be real, the Portland Trailblazers do not have a chance at winning the NBA championship. I'm sorry. As good as Dame is, as good as some of these guys on the roster can be, the Blazers may need to do something with CJ McCollum or even Damian Lillard. But that's my thought on the rest of the series. I think it'll be a really close one. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen, but I think the Blazers now have the momentum. I'll pick them in 7.
I still like the Nuggets in this series. I'm taking them in 6 or 7 games. I still think Jokic will show up, but I agree with you on that. Finally, I forgot to add this into the rundown, Jacob. Before we move on to the 76ers and the Wizards, we got to talk about the Jazz and the Grizzlies just for a second here. The Jazz taking on the Grizzlies, and they got a 3-1 commanding lead, and the only thought I have is, Jacob, is this was the same position the Jazz were in last year against the Nuggets. They had 3-1 series lead and they blew that. I think this year is a little different for the Jazz this year. I think they're a lot more cohesive team. I think they're a lot better team. I really think they wouldn't be in this situation if they would have played Donovan Mitchell game one of this series, because I think this series would be over. This would be the second sweep of the first round. But got to give credit a little bit to the Grizzlies. Ja Morant is trying to wheel his team to, a series competitive series against the Jazz. But still, the Jazz are showing that they deserve to be the number one seed.
Looking at now, I wouldn't say it was a bad idea to sit Donovan Mitchell game one. I think it paid off. They only lost one game. They were able to rebound pretty fast, and I expect them to close it out in 5. Someone that has played absolutely insane, well, 2 guys actually, Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks. Now, we knew Ja was special, and we knew Jaren was probably going to be that number 2, but it might look now like that 2 and 3 position on the team going forward, Dillon Brooks could actually be the second best player on this team. And it's pretty surprising to see how fast their turnaround was. I mean, I expected the Grizzlies to be terrible for years. After their whole grit and grind era ended, I was expecting them to be bad, but nope. They turned it around really fast. They made it a little close as they can, but this one's over in 5.
On the Grizzlies, before we touch on the 76ers, Dillon Brooks, Jaren Jackson, Ja Morant, the grit and grind in Memphis is back. And I don't know if they're going to ever win a championship, but, that team could probably be in the second round and could be sniffing a conference finals here in the next probably 3 years. I would say so, Jacob.
All right, 76ers Wizards. Do you want to take this one away?
This series, Jacob, to me, I feel like this series is already over. I feel like there should have been a sweep last night. So there you go. That should be 3 sweeps in the first round for all of our Coin Flip podcast listeners and on the YouTube page. But, the 76ers fell asleep last night, Jacob. Ben Simmons late down the road could not handle his free throw shooting. He has never been a great shooter at all. All the headlines this morning for all the talk shows was about how Ben Simmons kind of choked his game away. He gave a chance to the Wizards. But let's not oversleep the Wizards. With Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, these guys have made every single game competitive enough to keep their team alive. They just have not had the last second shooting. They've not been able to close the door on the 76ers and steal a game in this series from the 76ers. It was kind of expected to be between 4, 5, or 6 games. This was never going to go to a game 7. This was never going to be a really competitive series, but we probably thought that the Wizards were going to probably steal a game or 2, but the 76ers are okay. The real question is, how are they going to look in the next round? They possibly have the Bucks, or, I don't know how the NBA seeding is right now. I haven't checked that. My apologies, but nonetheless, I think the 76ers are right. They dropped the ball last night, but I don't think this is something to be worrying about. Ben Simmons, lack of free throw shooting doesn't really concern me. He's not really the shooter on the team. I don't think you really need to worry about that at this point. You just kind of need to, just get through this series and then find a game plan for the next round.
Martin, I've talked a lot about Ben Simmons on this show. 5 of 20 from the free throw line the other night. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That is something you can go find a random guy at the YMCA or the HPC in our case, and they can hit, guy or girl, and they can hit 25% of their free throws. They can do exactly what Ben Simmons did last night. Now, Martin, I also have news for you. Joel Embiid is injured. He's banged up a little bit. His knee is not 100%. I expect him to play perhaps again in this series, but if for some reason he cannot go within the next week, I'm not ruling out an 0-3 comeback. I'm not doing it because you have a couple of dogs on the other side in Brad Beal and Russell Westbrook. Now, I know I'm over my head with this, and the second Embiid steps back on that court, the series is going to fold and it'll be a wrap. But I do not trust the 76ers without Joel Embiid. Here's why. The other night is exactly why Simmons' free throw shooting and You know what? I'm starting to think Simmons can't be your number 2 on a championship team. Tobias Harris could be that option potentially, but he went
Wait, what?
He went 8 of 24 from the field last game. If he's going to be your second guy, then he can't do that. I don't really trust him to be that second guy either.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't saying he could be the second guy, but he would have to fill that role if that's what you want to do, and I don't think he can do that either. But now, the real reason the Washington Wizards have had no shot from the start is Russell Westbrook. I'm as big of a Russell Westbrook fan as there is, but I also have to admit, this first round of the series has shown exactly why I've switched, and I keep switching Russell Westbrook and CP3 in my best point guards list, is because the playoffs always show it. CP3's impact is way better, and when Russell goes 3 of 19, I don't care that he had a highlight putback dunk. He goes 3 of 19 in a playoff game. How are you going to win with that? If he plays better and Joel Embiid is out, don't rule back a comeback, but it's not looking good.
Okay, wait. We don't have enough time on this podcast. We don't have enough time on this world to go over the fact that you just said you keep switching Russell Westbrook and CP3 on your all-time point guard list. Listen, I'm just going to say this real quick.
Current.
Chris Paul is a top 5 point guard of all time. You can make an argument for top 3 point guard of all time without the rings, with some of the playoff, failures that he has. He is a top 3 point guard, top 5 point guard of all time. There is no way on earth that you can put Russell Westbrook and CP3 in the same conversation when it comes to a point guard. I am a huge Russell Westbrook fan. I grew up an OKC Thunder fan. There's no way you could put him in the same conversation. But nonetheless, back to your point on the 76ers and this Wizards, I guess I can see your point on the fact that they may come back, but this is a tall order, Jacob. I mean, Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook basically got to go God mode on this series. They have to go for 35, 40 apiece. They have to, click into that type of mentality to take down the 76ers, because the 76ers are a very big and physical and tough team. I mean, the Wizards are a good basketball team, but they do not have the same size as the 76ers. So it's going to have to be a tall order of consistent and really top-level shooting to get the Wizards back into the series and pull off an amazing comeback. I would love to see this go 7 games and see what would happen in a Game 7 with Joel Embiid possibly coming back and maybe, putting another, mark on his legacy that he can't stay healthy in the playoffs. But I just don't see it.
That is the NBA segment here on the Coin Flip. I'm going to go over and hit that segment for the NFL.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
Sanders still on his feet. Sanders is gone. Barr with daylight and time goes for the whole thing. Touchdown! Green Bay leads. Brett Favre.
Rice, he's open. No flags are down. Touchdown.
And here's a sack. Lawrence Taylor comes over the top.
Leon left. No.
Delone fires to an open Smith. Steve Smith is going to go all the way. No flags down. Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
6 seconds. Murray heaves it downfield. It's caught. It is caught. DeAndre Hopkins.
He did what?
He did what?
He did what?
Martin, we'll need to speed through this NFL segment for time reasons, but starting off, the Chiefs, 20-0. Patrick Mahomes talked about the possibility the other day, and he definitely wants to make it his goal. I think it's a good way to motivate his team. I mean, how do you motivate guys who are in the Super Bowl every year? I mean, that's tough. That's tough. Winning just regular season games does not mean a whole lot to them. But 20-0, Martin, what do you think about that? Is it possible, or is this too far-fetched?
in the day of the NFL, I don't know if it's totally possible. I mean, just so many things got to go right. We saw the New England Patriots do it in 2008, and they barely got out of that regular season 16-0 because they could have lost to the Giants on the last week of that season. They won that game, I believe, was 35-32, and that was their toughest game all season. For Patrick Mahomes to say this, I love it, dude, because he is trying to challenge Tom Brady to go to as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady's been to as many Super Bowl championships as Tom Brady has. I mean, he's already been to 2 Super Bowls in his entire career for Patrick Mahomes. He's 1 for 1 in the Super Bowls. Tom Brady does have some losses in the Super Bowl, so they're on the same page and the same pace for that. Tom Brady came out and said, if I could trade 2 Super Bowls for the perfect season, he would. So, I mean, the perfect season matters to the NFL players. It's a legacy that you want to be part of, is that Miami Dolphins 1972 undefeated team with Don Shula, rest in peace, the head coach Don Shula, the winningest coach in NFL history. I think it's a goal for Patrick Mahomes to set, because he's Madden 21 on the field, man. He's just that God mode. Really, when you look at the AFC, I don't see a whole lot of competition for the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe minus the Indianapolis Colts, minus the Buffalo Bills, and maybe the Baltimore Ravens. I still have questions about the Baltimore Ravens offense. But other than that, the Kansas City Chiefs really have a chance to go 20-0 this season. They do have a bit of a tough schedule with Green Bay, with Los Angeles Rams, with Cleveland Browns, with Baltimore Ravens on the schedule for them as well. So maybe this time we get, part 2 between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, and hopefully Patrick Mahomes' offensive line is healthier this time than it was in the Super Bowl this past season. So I think it's a very, very good goal for Patrick Mahomes to set himself. Can he do it? I hope he can, because he would be an awesome player to say that he did. But you got to see, how it goes in the NFL season. Anything can happen, and we just got to wait and see.
I think the fans as well as the media would love to see Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady face off again. It would be their 3rd time, actually, because I would count the AFC championship game a few years back. But as for 20-0, I don't expect it to happen next year. Will it happen in our lifetime, Martin? Probably. I would bet in the next 50, 60 years or so it happens at least once. But as for right now, I don't see the NFL in that state. I've seen for years the Kansas City Chiefs, and a lot of teams have done this, especially in other sports, how kind of in the middle of the season, they take a few games off. I mean, I've noticed that in the Chiefs against teams that really don't have a business coming even close to them. They just lay an egg. I mean, we saw it last year. They lost a game against the Raiders. They could have easily swept the division. I mean, they're the Chiefs, right? The talent is there to do so, but I don't think the Patriot mentality is ingrained in all these teams like they did when they were able to start 18-0 and then lose in the Super Bowl to Eli. I think the best record realistically this team could probably get is 18-2. Give up 2 losses, 1 here, 1 there. They're going to be playing 18 weeks. You only get 1 bye. I think there should be 2 byes, by the way. But as for 20-0, I just don't see it happening. Could it happen with the Bucks? I think that's just as big of a conversation as it is with the Chiefs. With the Bucks, could the Bucks do it? Not right now. You have maybe the best roster in the league, but with Tom Brady at his age, he can get up for 1 game. He could be the best quarterback in football for 1 game, for sure, but not throughout the whole regular season. No.
I agree with you on that. I think, again, Patrick Mahomes, if he can do it, that'd be exciting. All right, Jacob, we got to move on to the Dallas Cowboys. I know I'm taking over here just for a quick second, but
go ahead.
Dak Prescott's coming back. Dak Prescott is going to be healthy this season. He's got his contract. He's got Ezekiel Elliott. He's got Amari Cooper. He does have his mediocre coach in Mike McCarthy coming back. But with a healthy Dak Prescott, are we going to see the revival of the Dallas Cowboys?
Are we going to see the revival of the Dallas Cowboys? No. Let me put it this way. The Cowboys are pretty lucky that they can no longer go 8-8. Because they can't. You got to play an extra game now. So you can't finish 500. You can't be getting away with, you can't say we had a losing season. It's going to be one or the other, Martin. Either they're going to be winning or they're going to be losing this season. And Cowboy fans are going to be really excited if they go over 500 this year. I think that was kind of funny how they have the extra game this year. Anyway, Dak started more than 100% last year. His start to the season was tremendous. He was leading a ton of other guys. I think someone along the way last year told me a stat how Dak Prescott got hurt in week 5 or 6. I forget which one. But it wasn't until like week 12 that all the other starting quarterbacks had passed him in yards. Or something crazy like that. He was off to an insane start. But Dak's got to start games better. A lot of his yards were trying to come back in a game that they didn't really have a chance winning. And if he can start those games better, they can start the run game. If the defense doesn't look like a complete travesty, then maybe this team has a chance at making the playoffs. I mean, their division is their best hope. If they can win a couple games in the division, the rest of the division is going to lose a lot of games outside of it. And maybe they'll have a chance that way. But as Stephen A. Smith always says, and I don't want to copy other people in the media, but he's right when he says this. And what can go wrong will go wrong, and it seems to always happen with this team.
I agree with you. I think they'll go either 9-8 or 10-7. That's how I have it written down in my notes right here. Dak Prescott to me is an amazing talent. I think he's not 100% like Patrick Mahomes, but if a dude had a chance in an offense that just threw the ball all over the place and ran the ball just a little bit, he could be one of those guys that throws for about 4,500 yards in the season and can throw for 40-plus touchdowns. He has that type of arm. He has that type of accuracy. He's that type of football player. He plays for a middle-of-the-road team. I mean, even though they have Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott, they do not have a great offensive line. They do not have a sustainable defense to keep teams out of the end zone. They just play mediocre football all the time, and their fans, cheer on that they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to win the Super Bowl, and they're a marquee team you got to put on national television. And, there's a few gripes if you're a regular NFL football fan because everybody's tired of watching the Dallas Cowboys. But Dak Prescott, he was better than most quarterbacks they threw out there on the field after Dak Prescott broke his leg. He was better on one leg than any of the quarterbacks that threw on that football field for the Dallas Cowboys. He was that much better, even better than Andy Dalton. Now I got to deal with him in Chicago, possibly being my starting quarterback. The Dallas Cowboys will probably either be 9-8, 10-7. I think with Dak Prescott back, they have a chance to maybe look at 11 wins, but they're not a true, playoff football team. They're not anywhere near that. They could possibly win their division. It's still up for grabs, really. That division's still a mess. With the Eagles out of the running already, they're going to tank their season, and it's just a 3-man race between them and the Giants and the Washington football team. So we'll see what happens with the Dallas Cowboys. With Dak Prescott coming back, it'll be interesting.
That is the NFL here on the Coin Flip podcast. Let me go over and hit that button for other sports.
Years of trying, 20 years of frustration. Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500. And the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores. There's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Yes! With Konerko up, and he rips one into left. Konerko, grand slam.
Oh yeah, other sports here on the Coin Flip podcast here. It's an exciting time to talk about other sports, Jacob. Man, first with NASCAR, the Coca-Cola 600 was this past weekend. It is the longest race in NASCAR schedule, 600 miles, 400 laps, in a 120-degree hot, steaming car going around Charlotte Motor Speedway in a mile-and-a-half track. Kyle Larson picks up his second win of the season, giving Hendrick Motorsports their 269th win of the season. Next race is in Sonoma, California. I'm picking Alex Bowman to win that race. The last time the series was there, Alex Bowman got his second career win at that racetrack, so I'm taking Alex Bowman to win that race. On to Dixie State sports. Dixie State baseball finishes out the entire calendar, this pandemic 2020-2021 calendar of a season for Dixie State Athletics. They finished the entire season finishing 2-2 versus the University of Arizona, the sixth-ranked team in baseball, in Division I baseball. They steal 2 games from the sixth-ranked team. They won their last 13 of 19 games. They finished the season 24-32. A lot of great things will come up for this baseball team next year as they enter their second season in Division I baseball. And finally, Jacob, the second round of the NHL playoffs. Who can turn up hockey, man? I was watching playoff hockey last night. The New York Islanders and the Boston Bruins, they went into overtime. It was a win for the Islanders 4-3 as they tied the series between the Boston Bruins 1-1. The Montreal Canadiens, they're moving on after they came back from a 3-1 deficit down to the Toronto Maple Leafs to take on the Winnipeg Jets in the second round of the playoffs. That's going to be a fun series. Las Vegas and Colorado, they're facing off tomorrow night in Game 2 after Colorado gave a spanking to the Vegas Golden Knights, 7-1 in the first game. It was not even close from the tip of that game. And Jacob, your Carolina Hurricanes are in a dogfight with the Tampa Bay Lightning for their series as Tampa Bay leads that series 1-0. Game 2 is tonight. I'm going to be glued to my TV for that game. Jacob, I'll be texting you. I know you're going to be watching some NBA playoffs, but
yes,
man,
sir.
turn over to the NBCSN channel. Watch a little bit of Carolina Hurricanes hockey. I think you would get into it. I think you would love this team. This Carolina Hurricanes team is fun to watch. They're young. They're talented. But the NHL playoffs, man, they're just as fun as to watch the NBA playoffs. I can't get enough of it. But that's your other sports here on the Coin Flip podcast.
Who can I expect? Who are your 2 favorites to win the NHL Stanley Cup?
Well, right now, I'd probably have to pick Carolina or Tampa Bay. Really, that's the series that I see the Stanley Cup champion come out of. You could possibly talk about the Colorado Avalanche versus Las Vegas if that series turns out to be different. But Montreal, Winnipeg, the New York Islanders, and the Boston Bruins, they all have a chance as well. It's the NHL playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. The NHL playoffs are the hardest playoffs to win because they're just that difficult to play, man. So I think my top 2 teams are either Carolina or Tampa Bay. Whoever wins that series, I think wins the Stanley Cup.
All right, my man. I'm excited. It's time for your rant.
All right, let's do it.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
The one, the only, the rant.
Oh, you're about to go blasphemous.
Fighting a scorpion, and that is final.
Will you two shut up?
Oh my God, I don't care.
You will when we're done talking about the rant. Here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
It's been a while since I've done the rant, and I'm doing it remotely. This is kind of weird to be in my parents' house, in my sister's apartment. She came by a couple seconds ago looking at me like, what are you doing on my couch doing your podcast? Excuse me. And I'm just like, can you go away for a second? Let me do my podcast and I'll go away. But to talk about the rant here, the Memorial Day race weekend. It's my favorite weekend of all time. It's just, Jacob, this is a little bit of an interactive rant as well. I'll have you talk a little bit. But this is my favorite weekend, dude. The Monte Carlo F1 race starts off the weekend. They had that race last weekend, so they didn't have it this Memorial Day weekend. But that starts in Formula One. That kicks off at 3 o'clock in the morning on Central Time. So if you want to get up that early to watch that race live, you can do that. That starts over in Monte Carlo, over in the beautiful European site, man. On the river.
Did you say 3 a.m.?
3 a.m. in the USA time, man. 3 a.m. in the morning. I never do it, but I watch the highlights later. But if you want to be a superior race fan on the Memorial Day weekend, you start at 3 a.m. in the morning on this Sunday. And then move over to noon, dude. My favorite race of all time, the 2-mile horse racetrack. It is a beautiful racetrack in Indianapolis, Indiana, the Indianapolis 500. I've been to that race 4 times in my life. I have seen amazing finishes at that race. 200 laps at a 2.5-mile racetrack, watching Indy cars go 225 miles an hour right on the edge of crashing with each other and winning the race. Helio, it is an amazing race, Jacob. Helio Castroneves wins his 4th Indianapolis 500 at the age of 46. Yes, I said 4 and a 6, not 16, not 26, not 36, 46 years old. It is his 4th Indianapolis 500. He joins Al Unser, he joins A.J. Foyt, and he joins Rick Mears as the only 4 drivers to win the Indianapolis 500 4 times. And then you finish off the night with the Coca-Cola 600, the longest race in NASCAR schedule, 600 miles, 400 laps. It is a grueling dogfight of a race for a driver to sit in a car for nearly 4 hours and race around a 1.5-mile racetrack in Charlotte Motor Speedway for on and on and on. And Jacob, it is my favorite race weekend of all time. I just sit on my couch, I drink some beer, I eat some food, I watch racing all day. It is the most fun I have all year, man. It is my favorite weekend of all time. And I'm just happy to enjoy it in this pandemic 2021 crazy year. And I'm finally glad that fans were at the racetrack to watch these races. It was amazing to see that. I'm glad we're starting to get back to normal, but it was an amazing weekend, Jacob. I enjoyed it so much, and that's my rant.
You know, I wish I was this excited to watch the NBA playoffs, but my team is in a dogfight in a 2-2 series right now with AD probably not going to play. LeBron is going to go for 45, 10, and 5. At least I want him to. At least I need him to, you know? But I like your rant. I enjoy it. Warms my heart. Almost makes me want to sit down and watch one with you.
You're going to do it with me next year, man. In 2022, we're going to sit down and we're going to do this grueling day. We're going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to watch the Monte Carlo race. Then at noon, we're going to watch the Indianapolis 500. And then at 6 o'clock, we're watching the Coke 600. We're just going to have a great time.
Wake me when it's the final lap, Martin. I miss you, my man. Get back here soon.
All right, Jacob. I appreciate it so much, man. That's Coin Flip Podcast, everybody. That's Jacob back in the studio. I'm remote. Look out for our Instagram page. Look out for our Twitter page. We're working on this as we're flying by. Thank you guys for listening. Find us on YouTube, the Coin Flip Podcast. Spread the word. Jacob, any final words?
Peace, guys.
Peace.